Hello, it's Classy here back with another Tribes video, and today is going to be a rare double upload because a lot of people has been requesting for Abyss help, so I decided to make a short video about Abyss tips as it's important knowledge to have for the current banner obviously and the future. So first things first, let's talk about the first stages of Abyss, and I'm referring to stage 1 through 20. Because the way Abyss works, once you get up to 22, it starts becoming much harder. And from 1 to 20, it'll be very, very easy. And of course, this video is not going to be geared towards like completely new players. It's going to be geared more towards players who have had a good amount of time spent in the game already and have a good collection of units. This is because Abyss has a lot of variety, and there are a lot of different ways you can approach the individual stages. So this will be kind of a general guide to encompass all of that. So what should you do from stage 1 through 20? You don't want to just use your power team and just flow through it. And the reason is because this actually wastes a lot of important time that 1 through 20 gives your units. I'll show you guys why. So right now I'm on 32. This is the first day of the event. And as you can see, my units actually have chakra already. And this is because if they survive the previous battle, the chakra is saved over. So what you actually want to do for stage 1 through 20 is go into your units. Take a look at your strongest ones. Some of mine are dead, obviously, from before. But what you want to do is you want to start filling them in, the 9 slots. And if you have Sai, which most of us should have, put him in every single time. So you'll have a team of 8 units that you're going to use in the future, like the harder levels, plus 1 Sai. And then when you're blowing through the floors 1 through 20 really quickly, because you can probably one-shot all those guys, you'll get free chakra, and then your units will end up having full chakra. You don't actually want to spend this chakra. Once you fill up a unit's chakra, switch them out with another unit in your team that you want to use later on. And at the end of floors 1 through 20, around like half of your roster or a good amount of your useful units will actually have full chakra already. So this basically gives them insta-jutsu, and this is just a really good way to prepare for the harder floors now that all your useful units have full chakra right off the bat. So hopefully this makes sense. Just make sure to have 8 of your strong units that you want to use plus Sai. Keep Sai in every time, rotate out those 8 units for 8 more that don't have full chakra, and keep repeating. Now once you actually get past floor 20, you'll be facing stronger opponents, and depending on how powerful you are, you might have to switch your strategy. So for me personally, 28 was where I actually had to start switching, but it could be anywhere from between 20 to beyond. And let's assume you haven't gotten to that floor yet. Then you can continue to use a nuke style team. Just keep Sai in there, use some nukes and stuff. Should not give you too much trouble. You can even continue to fill up your unit chakra bars if you're strong enough. But once you actually hit that floor, which requires more difficult planning, we're going to start switching over to a tribe strategy. And here's an example. My Sai is dead right now, but you can imagine the Sai in place of Blossom right now. And you can see that I'm using a tribe. So the way a tribe strategy works is you want to start the battle with a full tribe gauge. And there are a few ways to do this. First, you can save up the tribe gauge from your last battle if you basically beat it already. But if you don't have a full tribe gauge yet, you're going to have to send in a fodder team. So how do you build a fodder team? A fodder team is basically a bunch of units that you are not actually going to use in the future. Like, let's say these 3 here, I'm probably not going to use them since they're 1 stars. So you just fill them in. You can also fill in Choji and Jiraiya, because they will increase your tribe gauge with their jutsu and skill too. Blossom you can put in as well, but you might want to save her for other strategies. But again, the fodder team is basically just a bunch of weak units that you send in to build up your tribe gauge. And once you have it filled up, you can start building your actual tribe team. And as you can see, I have a tribe here. There are a lot of different tribes, which I'll cover in a second. But the basic premise of this team is you have a tribe that you use on turn 1, which will give your team a lot of boosts. And then for the rest of the battle, your other 6 units will be hitting harder, and you try to land as many stuns as possible. You use side to give your units more jutsus. And then overall, you should be able to take out most, if not all, the units on the floor at once. If you still have units left over, you can send in a cleanup team. Usually the tanks are the ones left over because it's a much better idea to kill off the A and T units first in Abyss. So if you have a bunch of tanks left over that you've weakened and your team died, then you can start spamming your T units to finish them off. So there are a lot of good ones. There's Shikamaru, Kirin, Kid Kakashi, all sorts of T units. A lot of us have a lot of T units, so just pop them in there. Keep in mind ordering, of course. This is not just randomly putting units, but team building matters still, just like the generic principles of team building. Just remember those. Yeah, lots of T units you can think of using just to finish off those tanks and get through their defenses. And that's pretty much the general idea. So I'll be going over some tribes now, and I'll also show you what I did today and how I was able to get to B32. So let's take a look at some tribes. For Abyss, the most popular one now is actually Commander of Heavy. So you can see here, it boosts attack, it boosts defense. It's a really great tribe. And this also actually does good damage. So that's why Blossom is useful, because she heals up the 2 tanks, Jugo and Suigetsu. And she also boosts tribe gauge as well. So you can use this tribe multiple times to deal extra damage to an enemy. This actually does good damage, so you can nuke down important enemy units with this. So if you have this, this is pretty good. Try to use this as much as possible. Think of it like ATB style almost, if that makes sense. I did make an ATB guide before. Now, other tribes to use include the Akatsuki ones. So these are the old tribes that people used to use for Abyss, and I still use them. So we go here. So you can use Pain and Conan. You can sub them out, but since I usually use 2 of them during like 1 session, I end up using both anyways. So this one boosts critical stats and also boosts status effect rate, which is really important because again in Abyss you want to stun the opponents so they don't hit you with like really high powered jutsus and bad effects. So that's why stuns are really important, and this tribe is really useful. The recover HP thing is not too important here, but it could be useful if you're using units that were wounded from before. So that's what this tribe is used for. For this one, you want to use Sai because this doesn't give chakra. So that's why Sai is really good with this one. For this one, let's say your Sai died, you can actually still use this tribe with Kisame and Itachi because this actually does really good damage increase rate boost. It also decreases enemies' chakra and it gives your units a lot of chakra. And why is decreasing enemy chakra useful for Abyss? Because remember, we talked about sending in fodder teams. So when you send in those fodder, the enemies actually build their own chakra and their own tribe gauge. So just keep that in mind. It is a trade-off that you have to make, but this tribe helps you offset some of that trade-off. And besides those, we have some new tribes that are really good. So one of them is the Triple Naruto tribe. Let me see if I can find it. We all know KCM is broken, and he also is part of a 3-man tribe that is also really good, so that just makes him better, if I can find it. This one. Why is this tribe good? It's because it does good damage. It also has a single target stun, which is really useful, because I already explained stuns earlier and status effects, but this is a tribe with the status effect stun, and if you don't finish off an enemy in 1 blow with this, then you can stun them with a pretty high chance. Like 60% chance is higher than a regular single target stunner's chances. Also boosts attack or boosts damage increase rate and damage reduction rate. So if you have this one, this is also really good. And hopefully a lot of people have this because of the recent anniversary event. But yeah, I'm definitely going to build this one up soon. The only problem for me is that my UR Hokage Naruto is not very good right now. So yeah, those are just some examples. If you want more examples of tribes that are good for Abyss, make sure to head to the Ninja Tribes database. So shout out to those people for working on that. And they have a lot of good info about which tribes to use and some ideas. Now let's take a look at teams. This will kind of be a lesson by example also, and there are just so many different possibilities that it's really hard for me to tell you exactly what to build in your teams. But let's take a look at what units have already died so I can give you a good sense of what teams I use today. So as I said before, I got up to 28 pretty easily, so I built up the chakra of a lot of my units, and then here are the units that have died. So I'll explain how I use these units in the team building page. So 28, I believe I had Saya already at that point, so I used him. Let me just find a page that I can build with. Okay, let's just use this one. So I used Pain, Daedra, and Sasori. That is going to be the status effect tribe that I was talking about. You don't have to use Pain all the time. Sometimes it's better to actually use the weaker of the two. My Conan's really weak and I want to keep her that way for a specific reason. So let's say I sent in a fodder team and the enemy has their co-op attack ready when I enter in on turn 1. I would actually want them to kill off my entire energy cell because that would have a really good chance of fixing my rotation to be 3 and 3. And that is a really good way to win because you'll never have any rotation problems. So you'll be able to attack with 3 units every time, and also your tribe gauge will be filled up faster. But in this case, I already had full tribe gauge, so the enemies didn't have any chakra or tribe gauge of their own, so I was able to use Pain. Pain's actually really good because he can shred tanks, and this Abyss has a lot of tanks. Now we have the energy cell here. I did not use Daedra actually. I used him last time for the last Abyss, but I haven't used him yet. So I ended up using KCM, Sai, and Kakashi. And that's my 4th cell. I really like this 4th cell because this is a sustained cell. It has a ton of status effects. It also has a lot of healing. So Sage Jiraiya heals himself a lot. Mama Sakura helps heal her teammates as well as herself. And they give a lot of defense boosts to each other. So that's why I like this team. And over time, remember, the tribes that you use are boosting stats. So over time, they can actually do good damage. And they're really useful for just stalling out and chipping at the enemy over time, especially with Mama Sakura's burn. Now for Spirit, what I have are some of my most powerful nukes. KCM obviously is really good for buffing everybody on the team. We already know that. Kakashi, you'll never go wrong with him. He has the Insta-Jutsu. He can nuke really hard, like in the millions, depending on how strong you have him upgraded and how you buff him over time. Obviously, I have Sai as well to give chakra to everybody. So this was my first team, and I pretty much survived with all of them, I think, on B28. So, yeah, but obviously my weak Sasori died, and that's why I had to switch to the other tribe for B30. So B30, I was using Kisame and Itachi, and I don't think I used anyone else. Let's say my Sai died on B28 somehow, which he shouldn't, because if he did, you should probably reset. Yeah, and let's just say if he died, then that's fine because I get chakra from this tribe anyways, so I can replace him. I have a lot of different options. Kid Sasuke is good. You can use Santa Naruto. You can use Sublime. Just so many different options right now. You can use UR Heavy. Just keep in mind the principles, right? You want to try to have as many status effects as you can, and then have a lot of buffers from your tribe. And yeah, that's pretty much the general idea here. And after B30, my side was finished off. I think Kisame died, Itachi died. So that's where I am right now. Now I'm on B32, which is even harder than before, like harder than B30, and I still have one more tribe to go, so I can continue to try beating this. Now I don't have Sai anymore. I think KCM Naruto and Kakashi also died, so that's why these guys are all grayed out. I actually didn't use the fodder team either because I had the full tribe gauge. So yeah, B30 had a lot of tanks, but my sustained force cell really helped me handle them really nicely. And now I have another tribe, the Commander of Heavy, one of the best ones. I have Blossom to give healing. I've already explained this before, but so I can use the tribe more often if possible. Sublime is really good if he survives into the late game because he does a ton of damage, but against a really D-heavy Abyss, he might not be as good. I have the Santa Naruto Sasori combo to do heavy debuffs and Confuse to mess up their rotation. I have Kid Sasuke for Chakra because I don't have Sai, and he also does attack buffs and stuns. And then You Are Heavy also is one of the late game scalers, and he also has stuns. And let's just say I somehow beat this. Who else in my roster would be useful to use? I'm reserving most of the T units to finish off the tanks for my cleanup team, which is probably going to be necessary because there's a lot of D units here. Like, besides that, like Toby is really good. My Toby is kind of weak. Toby's great. He does stuns, of course, and he also burns, which is good in Abyss because it takes a lot of turns. A Narukage is good for buffing. Itachi's good. And yeah, there's probably more good units in my roster. But if you want more ideas on which units are good, which are not, make sure to head to that Ninja Tribes database once again. We have our new tier list, which I might make a video on later, but this tier list gives a number rating for every single unit and their usefulness in Abyss and all the other modes. So that can give you a good idea. And yeah, hopefully this video helped you guys. It's a little bit generic. It's really hard to give specific advice on how to get through Abyss because it is a case by case basis. Everyone has different units and people have written guides before, but this is just my verbal thoughts after getting through 30 floors today in relatively short time. So overall, I think the most important thing is knowing how to use the tribe strategy, how to fill up your unit's chakra in the easier floors, how to arrange your team correctly and choose the right units. And yeah, just those are like the general Abyss principles. So hope this video helped you guys out.